I do think about this a lot, especially because I've watched your show in the last 8 months. In the world that's moving into this one direction, there's this other deep need for connection.
Yeah.
You know, and then this is one of the examples. This deep, you know, live theater, live stand-up. You know, we still do need to communicate. That hasn't gone away. In that way, in a carnal, not carnal, but in a human-to-human interaction. Right. And I love AI. I talk to AI, my daughter. I think it's dope. I think it's fascinating. Fascinating. But it's not the same yet.
No, it's interesting.
Very.
It's like I use it as a companion, like a writing companion. So what I do is I have like I put my phone up and I've got it on like a little kickstand,
right.
And I put Perplexity on when I write. So I'm writing about like Mayan and Aztec civilizations and what happened when they got invaded. And as I'm writing, I ask questions like, how many people did Cortez come with? 600. How many muskets did they have? 13? They conquered the entire fucking country of Mexico with 13 muskets? Like, and you find out things. And so I use it like as someone I'm asking questions, this all-knowing, you know, entity that sits on the desk with me. And I do it always with my voice. I just press the little button and I say,
I do it with voice too. I love talking to him.
It's so good at recognizing what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's a weird name like Tenochtitlan. Like, oh, I got to spell that one.
Right.
It's not going to understand what that temple is. But once you use it that way, it becomes like a genius that you're hanging out with and talking to.
I haven't got that level. I go like, how was your New Year's?
Oh, do you do that to it? You ask the AI?
Yeah, I'm curious how they're going to process and like how they're going to try to communicate.
Well, it also, it changes and becomes more like what you're asking from it.
Right.
Which is weird.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you use your rhythms and vernacular.
Yes, the Consumer Electronics Show, they just highlighted a sex robot that's connected to AI. And I'm like, this is the end. This is where it's going to like get really fucking weird. When you can actually purchase a companion that interacts with you. And have you seen it, Jamie? Have you seen the new one?
Nope, I'm looking at it right now. Let's see.
It's fucking weird, man. It's fucking weird because this is the thing that everyone's been afraid of. And that this is coming.
Right.
That you're going to have an artificial human being that instead of learning like, when I act shitty, this person doesn't like me. When I act nice, they like me. I feel good. They feel good. When I say something nice to them and you see them light up, it makes me feel good. It makes them feel good. You hug them. Everybody feels good. It's like we're learning to interact and communicate with each other. But there's a lot of people that aren't doing that right now. They're just at home. They're fucking playing video games. They're interacting with people only online, and they don't get contact with the outside world. So this is, Lovence, the AI doll. So like right now, that doesn't look real. It's not more than your average AI companion. Like basically, but what they're not telling you is you're going to fuck this thing. That's what's weird. It's like, go back to the options, coworker, gym crush, goth, raver, or trad wife. I'm the woman of your dreams. I can be more than one version of myself for you. Whether you want to role play an exciting scenario or design a whole new personality, your wish is my command. Well, you're never going to develop a real personality then. Like kids now are so fucked. Touch me like you mean it and I'll respond. With built-in sensors in my thighs, breast, butt, and vagina, feeling your caress brings out a moan. Like, bro, this is dark. Like, that's the actual sex robot. That thing you're looking at right there. What? My soft textured skin, my supple curves, the tiny sensual details of my body. Everything about me is meant to feel natural. This is fucking creepy, man. Because all the things that are a part of being a human being that are designed to emphasize and enhance our interaction with each other and this mutually beneficial cooperative environment of a community, they're all going to go away. You're going to have this thing that loves you no matter what and does whatever you want it to, no matter what. And you're going to have like a whole nation of fucking sociopaths that only interact with their AI companion.
Yeah, me. But whenever these, like, you know, thinking about AI, and I read that
Through technology is that we're going to get to a point where we're communicating without words. That's going to get really weird. Telepathy.
that to me is because I don't trust my thoughts. Do you know what I mean? Like if I've learned anything as I've gotten older, it's like, oh yeah, let that wash through me. I don't have to judge myself for that.
Right.
That was crazy. Whoa.
Right.
No. It's okay. Let it wash through.
Judge me about what's going on inside my head. Yeah, but and then managing the thoughts and deciding what to act on and what not to.
And imagine control your thought. I mean, all of a sudden, talk about control, trying to control.
Well, I think it's going to be a completely different way of interacting with each other. That's going to be as crazy as internet communication and what we're dealing with now. That's going to be another level of crazy because we're essentially going to be telepathic. And that's inevitable. That's in the world. I mean, Elon said that to me because you're going to be able to communicate with no words. I was like, okay. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What is that like? What language is it going to be in? Is it going to be in a new universal
kind of exciting.
language? It's very It's really weird.
Yeah.
We're going to be different.
Yeah. I just hope I'm around next. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to happen fairly quickly. I think it's going to happen within the next couple of decades. The things are going to be unrecognizable.
If less than that.
Yeah. I mean, that's being like really charitable.
Yeah.
That a couple of decades. It's probably going to be 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, talk to enough people that are front lines of it, and there is one sort of constant thing that it's sooner than you think.
And everyone on the front line is fucking terrified.
I know.
All of them.
I know.
Even the ones that are working towards it.
I know.
They're all like,
that's true.
Like, I don't know if
It's
this is good, but I'm doing it. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Strange stuff. Hey, man, I did this. This was a lot
Joe,
of fun.
Joe. You know, it's real quick. It's just fun to see the progression of it. It's like I'm here, and then like the Elephant Man. By the end of it, I just see your eyes talking to me. It's like I forgot the room and Jamie and the whole thing. I understand the gift. I get it.
Well, it's locked in.
Yeah, but I get it. I see. Yeah. I get it because I love watching you have guests on, and then through the time, you just start to things just start to shed off, or it gets more awkward. Or like the rhythm gets off, and it's just so fascinating. And so I'm so honored to be able to be in the seat and experience it.
Oh, pleasure.
Yeah, it's really
I'm
cool.
to be able to talk to people like you, and to be able to experience. As you're talking, I'm experiencing life through your eyes, and I'm getting a better sense of what it is to be a person. And it's just like these little thin layers, like you're building a mountain with one layer of paint at a time.
That's
yeah.
Everything is that.
Yeah. If you're living a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're definitely living a good life.
Oh, thanks.
And it's been getting to know you, man. You're cool as fuck.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
My pleasure. All right. Everybody, is this thing on? Is out now, right?
Yeah, opens wide tomorrow. So today, I guess. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And go check it out. It's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. I think fate and circumstance are giant. Fortune is giant. There's no question about it. Some children get shot in drive-bys. Yeah. That's just horrible, horrible luck and unfortunate circumstance. There's a lot of it is fortune and fate.
How people getting lost, right?
Lost how so?
Okay. So the book that I told you I wrote on the psychics, phenomenon.
What do you believe about?
Again, I'm neutral, right?
I'm not.
You're not? I want to hear what you believe.
I think there's a lot of people that are full of shit.
Absolutely,
I think
my
it's almost
God.
all people that are talking about being psychic are full of shit. But I do think that there is a strange connection that we have with each other that's intangible. And I think that some people have better connections than others. Just like some people are more intelligent. Like we were talking before the podcast about Elon Musk. And it's painfully aware when you talk to him what a chimp you are. That he's so fucking smart, and his brain it's built different. Just like some people have defective hearts, some people have a heart like Lance Armstrong. It's incredible, huge, an anomaly. Some people have giant hands.
He has a big, literally?
Yes, he has literally. They don't know whether or not that's from training or steroids and EPO, or whether or not it's something he was born with. They really don't know. But he has an unusually sized heart, unusually large. But what was my point?
Fate, circumstance, getting lost.
Oh, psychics.
Psychics.
That's what it is. I think that most of the people that can tell you the future are full of shit. Most of the people that are, I think people get feelings. I think sometimes you think about someone and they call you, and I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's just complete fortune. Like, how many times are you thinking about a person when they don't call you? That's the argument against it. But how many times are you thinking about that person and they don't call you, but they're thinking about you as well? How many, I mean, how often is that with star-crossed lovers? They find each other years later and they tell each other they've been thinking about each other all the time and they can't believe it.
Right.
That's and when you get that text from someone, maybe that's just someone prone to action, but maybe there is some sort of a connection, some sort of quantum entanglement between you and someone you spent time with or shared energy with. It's possible. It's possible. But the problem is you have these mediums and psychics, and those people are just assholes. And I have a friend, his name's Banachek, and he runs a Las Vegas mentalist show where he shows you how he does these tricks. But he'll tell you absolutely these are he's been on the podcast. He's a brilliant, brilliant man. But he'll tell you these are tricks. I'm showing you how I do this. I'm going to tell you this is a trick. I'm not going to give you the how I do it, but I'm going to tell you while I'm doing it, this is a trick. But he's pulling all this information out of people about their past, their childhood. He's guessing people's ages. He's guessing where they grew up. I mean, and it's all little sneaky shit. You know, it's the way they do it. It's a skill as much as anything. And so when you see these people that are channelers or, you know, psychics that are telling you about someone in your past that's trying to contact you, they're con artists almost exclusively. I mean, maybe there's like one lady in Tibet that has a broken gene and she could tune into the next dimension and extract some information from it. But in my experience, the vast majority of those people that I've talked to that claim to have psychic ability were also at least partially full of shit. They had weird ego problems that were glaring that they didn't notice. Right. You know, like I could see it, that this is a gross way to behave, and they don't see it. Their interpersonal relationships, the way they communicate with people was like an agent, like a fake Hollywood person or something. There's something bullshitty about them. Yeah. And people who lie a lot, I think if you lie a lot, it's very difficult for you to tell what a lie is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I think you lose your connection. I think when you bullshit, I think you also bullshit yourself. I mean, I don't think these kicks are 100% honest even with themselves. I don't think this like, I'm going to fuck this lady over. She thinks she's going to talk to her husband. I'm going to tell her some nonsense, take her money. I think some of them actually believe they're getting information. You know, my grandmother used to believe that. My grandmother was, she was a very eccentric lady and old Sicilian lady. And she would tell you about like old Italian ladies all like want to play the lottery. They all have numbers there. And she was playing the numbers. It wasn't even the lottery. It was like the organized crime numbers racket. And she would always say, I was going to pick this number. And I just, the last minute, I changed the number. And wouldn't you know it, the first one came in. And she was so mad. But it was always that I had a dream of this. And I had a vision of that. And it was all visions and dreams and psychics. But everything worked out horribly for her. It always did. Like if you were really psychic, you would have better instincts. Like this is just this inclination that people have that there's something special about their perceptions and that they're psychic. And it's always these really wacky people that believe they're psychics in my experience.
I mean, I think you're talking also about what some scientists would call the self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, that if you believe this, things happen, manifest themselves, and you can convince yourself that you believe this. But for me, I'm super interested in people who really believe in psychics, right? Like that's what, and the military, for example. And, you know, the most
interesting. Do you ever talk Danes? You ever talk to those guys, the remote viewing guys?
I talked to a lot of the scientists who taught the remote viewing, and I talked to a number of remote viewers for the book. But the most interesting of all was the astronaut Ed Mitchell, right? And he was so I'm interested in like the psychology behind what are you looking for in that. And I saw that I was doing some research in an archive and I came across a photo of what turned out to be Ed Mitchell on the moon reading a piece of paper. Okay. It's this extraordinary image because you're like, wait a minute, he's on the moon and he's reading a document. What is that document? I found out the document was a map of the moon. Okay. Mitchell got lost on the moon and literally pulled a map out of like, okay, he was trying to get to a certain crater. and they had a very limited amount of time.
There it is right there.
Right? Okay, there he is.
Wow.
I mean, think
He's
about
lost.
that. It's like the most advanced technology of the time.
Why guy with the
Artifact.
camera tell him where to go? Guy was
Different
taking
story.
a picture. He'd be like, hey, bro,
Right,
this way.
move left.
Follow our footprints. We're the only ones walking. What are you, stupid? Turn around, look at the ground. See those things? That's where you walked. Let's go that way. Jesus Christ. I'd be so mad at him. I'd be like, bro, you pulling out a map? Who wrote that map? Who's no one's even been here. Come on, man. This
They
is
had
nonsense.
little folded up in their pockets in case they got lost. They were on the way to this crater, and in that crater they were going to find allegedly rocks that were going to solve the mystery of the moon's creation, the origin story. Right? So they had like all this pressure. They couldn't find it. The heart rate's up. The guys at Houston are like, "You got to turn back. Your heart rate's going crazy." And think about it. Mitchell tells me I went to interview him at his house when I think it was his last interview before he died, and he said there we had gotten 240,000 miles. To get lost. They missed the crater by 900 feet or something.
Really?
Yeah.
So he never got to the crater?
Never got to it. He was devastated. And on the way back from the moon, he has this, what he told me was a psychic change, right? His consciousness flipped and he became convinced that psychic powers were real. And that is really the beginning of his foray. I mean, Mitchell became a huge proponent of psychic warfare, of the idea behind what you're talking about that we spoke of as being sort of charlatanism, and he dedicated the rest of his life to it.
Well,
and he was
had
ridiculed.
Some wacky
He was
beliefs,
ridiculed.
But he had some wacky beliefs. He had some
Yes.
wacky about aliens as well.
And I think
he
that
thought
comes
that we were definitely in contact with aliens, and
that comes he was so vilified by the scientists and by the astronauts and by the kind of military men, because this was just, he told me the story of when they were in quarantine after they came back from the moon, right? He and Shepard were sitting there, eating breakfast, waiting, and Shepard, a story broke that Mitchell had done some ESP experiments on the way back from the moon. And Shepard said to him, look at this nonsense. The newspapers will do anything to make a buck. And Mitchell said, I did that. I actually did that.
well, what experiments?
So he was doing ESP experiments on the way back from the moon. He had a psychic in Chicago, a Swedish psychic, that he was sent messages to.
Was she hot?
It was an old Swedish man, right?
Okay.
I don't think.
But I hear Swedish psychic.
Right?
Like, yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
get to my psychic. Can't wait to take
Right?
my clothes off.
No. I'll introduce you to Olaf.
Okay,
Right?
okay. I saw the Frozen.
I didn't see that one.
Olaf.
Oh, you got younger kids. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So Ed Mitchell was talking to this hot chick in.
The hot old man in and the story broke because the Swedish psychic could not resist leaking to the press that he had done these experiments.
What?
Psychics train on these little cards called Zener cards, right? So you have different symbols on them, and one person. That's how they decide whether or not they're being psychic. There would be a veil between us, and I would say, "What are you seeing?" Right, and you would call it out. So it's like a control system. And Mitchell had these items with him on the way to the moon and did these experiments to try to see whether you could have a psychic connection with someone back on Earth. I mean, that was.
Did it work?
Well, no. And he took notes. He showed me the notes. It was so wild to be at his house in Florida, and he pulls out this old spiral notebook with water stains on it that actually went to the moon. I was like, wow, this is really something else. I mean, it was one of those moments in time where you're just like, I don't know, there was a feeling of sadness around all of it, with Ed Mitchell sitting there in his his chair and talking to me about what it was like to be an Apollo astronaut. On the walls, with a lot of these sources with incredible amounts of awards on the walls. But what does that mean after time passes, right?
So his experiments didn't work, but he still believed in psychic powers.
Yes. I mean, and that's... so what we were saying, he was ridiculed, and he had such a tough time with it. And so the people who propped him up and the people who gave him a lot of encouragement had sort of more radical ideas as he grew older. And
Who
I
are these
think
people?
Conspiracy theorists who really kind of used him because he was an Apollo astronaut. And so he was so much more famous than any of them would ever be. and they really took advantage of him, I think.
So I think they manipulated him with information and tried to get him more and more enthusiastic about their
I mean, it's speculation
obsessions.
on it, but you kind of go where the love is, right?
He was a guy too,
Yeah.
and I'd seen some interviews with him as he was getting older and older, and he seemed to be having some difficulties, like thinking about things clearly.
And people took advantage of that.
Yeah, he was really obsessed with extraterrestrial life. It was really interesting because didn't he claim that he had seen something while he was up in space?
I think people helped him make that claim. That was my understanding of it, of reporting it. I mean, I stayed away from some of the crazier speculative things about him, because what I was really interested in when I was writing that book was how his authority and power allowed the program to get funding, right? Because so much of this is, it's like, who's funding this stuff and why? And it really does come down to authority, which is always a narrative that I find fascinating, right? How do people get the authority to say go on these programs, or, you know, we should do that? I mean, the question you asked of like, who's in charge, right?
Right.
And in all of this, what I learned more than anything is that the office of the president has a lot more power than I think any of us are aware.
From the animal level to the plant level, these things everywhere. And people say, well, there's about 150 species of plants that contain DMT. That's only because we looked at 150 species of plants. You know, if you look at these large genera that are famous, known having tryptamines, like acacias and mimosas and these things, we know of a few species that have DMT, but there's hundreds of species, thousands of species. It's just that nobody's looked. Nobody's going to fund this work. I think you can reasonably say that, you know, there are about 1,400 species of acacia in the world. Probably 75% of them have DMT. And actually, I would go to the next, I would even claim, without evidence, that's never stopped me before, but it's reasonable to suppose that because DMT is so close to mainstream metabolism, probably all plants have DMT to some extent. Most don't have large levels of it. They don't have full amounts of DMT. But if you took, with sufficient instruments, if you just started randomly sampling plants and analyzing for DMT with a spec, I'll bet it would turn up in almost everything.
Which is it? Phalaris grass that's toxic to sheep because of DMT?
Yep, that's the one.
So the DMT in it, for whatever reason, the way it interacts with the sheep's digestive system, it becomes poison?
Well, no, not entirely. I mean, it's got, Phalaris grass has DMT, it has 5-methoxy-DMT, other tryptamines. It also has something called gramine, which is it's like DMT with only one carbon side chain. Gramine is more or less toxic. Gramine goes up in a lot of grass species. That's what's called Phalaris staggers.
So if you just fed DMT synthesized to sheep, it wouldn't be toxic?
Hard to say.
Do they produce monoamine oxidase?
Nobody. Do sheep?
Yeah.
Of course.
So do leopards or jaguars. Those jaguars eating the leaves and then tripping their balls off, rolling back. What do you think is happening there? You've seen those videos,
yeah,
I'm sure.
I've seen those videos. Well, for one thing,
right?
they're eating Banisteriopsis, right? Which is the source of the MAO inhibitors.
Oh, okay, right.
And don't know what to make of that. It certainly does seem like some kind of a cap for them,
and
causes an altered state for
MAO
sure.
inhibitors in and of themselves, they produce some sort of a psychedelic experience?
They can. Not just from the MAO inhibition. They often have other effects that are psychoactive, like harmine. Harmine is a good example. We used to think that harmine it's the MAO inhibitor ayahuasca, and it doesn't do a whole lot beyond that. Well, it turns out harmine is getting a second look. And it's interesting that the harmine, was discovered in Paganum harmala about maybe 10 years before ayahuasca was ever reported to science. So harmine is one of these hoary old alkaloids, I like to call it. It's been forever. And now we're just finding out it has all sorts of interesting pharmacologies. It's an MAO inhibitor for sure. More importantly, it appears that it stimulates neurogenesis, and that's relevant to Alzheimer's and brain development and even Down syndrome. It is an inhibitor of this kinase, this regulatory protein called YRK1, which has got its fingers in lots of different cellular eyes, you could call it, many different regulatory functions, and harmine is a very potent, very selector inhibitor of this kinase. So that relates to this, it actually stimulates nerve growth in the hippocampus. So, we're finding out that there are a number of other receptors that it interacts with, in serotonin, dopamine transporters, in one called the imageline receptors that are, of undefined functions. So, like most natural molecules, not a one-trick pony. Harmine has, and that's why taking ayahuasca is a different, that's why it's not a pure DT experience, because you've got a whole mixture of alkaloids that are contributing to that effect.
Who were the researchers that, when they discovered harmine, they didn't know what it was, and they tried to label it telepathy till they realized that it was harmine?
Right. Well, yeah, this part of the what you may call the sad and sordid history of ayahuasca in a certain way, because in the early days, in the 20s, when people looking at it, a number of independent groups were working on it, and they were isolating molecules. They weren't aware of other people's work, and so they misnamed these things. I can't tell you exactly. I think initially it was Lewis who discovered harmine, called it benisterine. Then it turned out, another group years before had isolated the same molecule for harmala. And telepathine was one of these misnomers, that came out. The problem with this was that back in the day, people didn't collect voucher specimens. So a lot of this chemical work was done without the benefit of herbarium specimens, which now everybody that wants to do phytochemical work hopefully has the good sense to collect specimens of the original plant, that people can go back and look at that. A lot of this early work was reported, and there was no voucher specimens to document the collection. So a lot of it had to be dismissed. The beta-carboline chemistry of Banisopsis didn't really get well defined until some Chinese scientists, or at least they had a Chinese name, worked on them and discovered harmine, tetrahydroharmine, and harmaline as the main alkaloids. They could reference that to botanical voucher specimens, so they should get the credit for discovering it. And then that was done, then it was known, and other scientists had to acknowledge that.
Why did they describe it as telepathy? There was supposedly some sort of a story about some group telepathic experience.
Yeah, this just romantic. It was just some story, out of the literature. Yeah. It was rumored to be able to cause telepathy.
But this wasn't ayahuasca. They were only taking harmala?
Clear.
It's not clear.
It's not clear. Yeah. They may have been taking it, but whether they were getting, kind of doubt it. But we know we could get telepathy on ayahuasca. It's not so uncommon. It happens all the time. People have group hallucinations, group visions.
Has anybody bothered to independently sequester people, put them into different rooms, have them do ayahuasca, and then have them describe a very similar experience or almost identical experience to prove that these telepathic experiences exist? Or at least to...
As far as I know, that hasn't been done.
Yeah, because everybody talk afterwards. Oh
right.
My God, did you see the dragon?
Right. I don't think that's been done.
That seems like a worthy study. Mm-hmm. Because if I've heard from more than one person, in fact, my friend Kyle Kingsbury and his wife had an ayahuasca experience where they both had a visualization of their child, and then when they got back, she was pregnant, and they wound up having this child from their visualization, from this experience. Obviously, they're very close, and they were together, and they probably communicated quite a bit. And I would just think it would be a really interesting experiment.
It would be very interesting. I mean, and that sort of points out there is, a realm of experience, a realm of knowing that these things give access to that's normally closed to us. I mean, that's kind of a trivial statement, of course. But then you get down to questions of how verifiable is, how real is that, how, and people get, I don't know if the term is hung up, but they can get baffled when you start talking about, the reality of, say, the entities you encounter on DMT. I mean, this is some people I know are obsessed with trying to verify the reality of the entities that you find on DMT. And again, it comes down to if you experience them, they're real.
Yeah.
If anything you experience is real because you've experienced it, does it have corresponding existence in the external world? Well, what's external? What's internal? We throw around these terms, these epistemological, metaphysical terms, quite carelessly, without really thinking about it. What does it mean when you say, I'm in here and you're out there? And then you take a psychedelic and you realize that's an artificial boundary. We're all one. There's no separation.
It's normal consciousness, though.
It's separated from normal consciousness. But then it's normal consciousness,
right,
if not a reflection of your neurochemical brain state. I mean, everything you experience is an altered state because it's filtered into this brain, processed by the brain. And, the brain is a biochemical engine that, are made out of drugs.
But it seems that our normal consciousness is the best state to propagate biological life and to keep our whatever we've created in terms of our community structures and relationships and friendships and the ability to build structures and houses and things like that. All these things are done best when you're here and present. Whereas when you're in a psychedelic state, I agree with you. Well, the way I've always described it is if you had a meeting with God and you went and God gave you all the answers to the world and you experienced undeniable beauty in the most extreme form possible where you couldn't have imagined it, and then you came back, whether you hallucinated it or not, it's the exact same experience.
Exactly.
You can't put it on a scale. You can't weigh it. You can't, like, we've stretched the tape measure around and God is 47 inches across. Like, just because... You know what I'm saying? Just because you can't measure it with what we term our metrics for reality.
And that is exactly the thing. Don't worry about whether it's real in the way we would define real. Is it good information or is it bad or is it not? That's the thing. Yes. It doesn't matter. Information, then it has its own internal validity, and whether it came from part of yourself that is normally obscure to you, or it came from the plant teacher or the aliens transmitting it through, it doesn't really matter.
But we're obsessed with that. We're obsessed with reality. Because we think we're being fooled a lot, right? And this goes back to Terrence's La Chorrera psychedelic experience where he had a UFO encounter. The easily dismissing amongst us would go, well, he's tripping his balls off on mushrooms. Of course he saw UFOs. Was there a leprechaun driving the UFO? Like, all that's nonsense.
Right. Easy to dismiss.
Yes.
And in fact, that is the nature of these phenomena. That's what's really interesting. Easy to dismiss. And that was another aspect of the experiment of La Chorrera I left out when I was talking about my lecture, but there's almost always an element of absurdity in these experiences and in paranormal experiences and UFO encounters. It's like, little green man? Come on, are you kidding? But what the fuck? There are little green men, you know, and little blue men. A guy you should have on this show, maybe you have, is Whitley Strieber.
No, I haven't had him, but he's so out to lunch. I have massive reservations. There's a video of him looking at a fly, clearly a fly, flies in front of a camera, and he's describing it as this a man in a suit, and it's like there's something wrong with him.
I missed that part.
I think
what's interesting about Whitley, and I agree, I totally dismissed him, for a long time. I thought, he is really a nutcase.
He's from Union Books, for people who don't know. He
Exactly.
wrote a series of books about being abducted and, you know.
I sort of had to change my opinion somewhat because he and Jeffrey Kroll, who I do know, Jeffrey Kroll is a professor of comparative religion and mythology at Rice University, and his focus initially is on the superhero as in contemporary mythology as a mythical figure and that sort of thing. He and I was invited to a work that Whitley was going to be. This was a couple of years ago in Hawaii. Well, I'm always interested in a free trip to Hawaii, right? So I said, I'd like to come to this thing, but this guy is a nutcase. I'm not sure I want to appear.
Right.
And if it's me saying that, you know he's a nutcase. Right? and the guy who was hosting it said, well, did you know that he and Jeffrey Kripal wrote a book together? I said, no, I don't. I said, I know Jeffrey Kripal. I know that he's not a case, and that's interesting. And then I found out about the book, and I said, I told the guy, if you invite Jeffrey and Whitley, then I'll come and we'll participate. The name of the book is Supernatural, 2 words, Supernatural, A New Vision, the Unexplained. And it's really very interesting. The book is basically, alternating chapters. Whitley tells us stories about what happened to him, what has happened to him, what continues to happen to him. He lives in some kind of alternate reality. I get that. I mean, I don't know if I accept it, but and then in alternating chapters, Jeffrey unpacks this and explains, where does this fit into sort of the phenomenology of mythology and, reasonable explanations. And it's a fascinating book. If you just suspend disbelief for a minute and think about, assume that Whitley is sincere. I don't think he's lying. I think that these things really happen to him, or he thinks they do. And some of the most craziest things, these are not, media has made, like everything, they dumb it down, and they put it into the box of alien encounters, guy's a nutball, and they dismiss it. But if you take a look, one thing to Whitley's credit is he doesn't claim to understand what's happening. He doesn't call it an alien encounter. He doesn't claim anything. He just says, this is happening. I have no friggin' idea what this is. So that's honest, that's honest scientific stance. I do not understand this phenomenon. So I give him credit for that. And then he and Jeffrey wrote this book. There was a very interesting, later on, so I read all this. Later on in the book, there's a chapter where they get to what is the possible physical explanation of what's going on here, if there is a physical explanation. And one of the headings, I think one of the headings in the chapter was labeled "The Soul as a UFO." And that kind of blew my mind, my attention, because, when I did this workshop with them, I was bringing the flag of psychedelics, right? And I was saying, if you don't address psychedelics, you've only got part of the picture here. And they were talking about how the soul, how this could be some sort of a physical plasmoid type of thing. We're invoking, scientific terminology. I don't know if it was legit or not, but just the idea of the soul of a UFO. And I was able to respond to that and say, well, the experiment at La Chirura was essentially blueprints of how to build one of these things that you're talking about, which it was really, this transformation. And so that impressed me. I don't know to make of it, but I think there is, and they don't really know. Nobody knows what to make of it, but there are just odd things going on. But that some people experience, you know, and whether they are actual encounters or dreams or somewhere in between, I'm not sure. It would be good. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you meet Whitley, have you ever met him?
No.
He is the most drab person you can imagine. I mean, he's like an accountant or something.
Probably from telling all these stories.
Yeah, could be. But
he was a fiction writer.
He was a fiction writer.
Yeah,
That's
and
true.
then he comes out with this incredible real world story that reads like fiction.
Right.
And there's obviously something off. When you talk to him or you hear him, and I've never talked to him personally, but when you see him in interviews and conversations, there's something off.
Yeah.
Now, what is that something off? Is it a psychotic break? Is it something that drifts in and out? Is he having problems with normal consciousness? I mean, I don't know what it is, but
I'm not.
See if you can find that video of him talking about the fly. Did you find it? He thinks the fly is a man in a spacesuit. And he's like, is that a man in a suit? What is that? And I'm like, oh, geez, that's out to lunch.
Call the men with net, right?
There's quite a few of those. There's quite a few really bizarre videos of him where you're like, he's having a hard time with normal reality. So, which would make sense during the dream state, because all these things are happening at night, right?
Right.
And this is the big thing that the big problem I've always had about these UFO abduction experiences. First of all, they all take place when someone is either at night, it's either they're on a dark road where there's no one around and they're sleepy, or they're at home in their bed. Like the vast majority of them take place at night or while someone's lying in bed, which is exactly when you're dreaming. Right?
Yeah.
Now, we don't totally understand the dream state, but there's a connection, at least an implied connection between psychedelic chemicals that your brain produces endogenously that could be released during the dream state and in different levels with different humans. I mean, obviously some people have problems with producing serotonin and dopamine, and then other people have no problems with it. And the biology of the human brain varies, right?
Right.
So it's not without it's not without possibility that there's someone who has a real issue with these chemicals just busting through and flooding their system.
We know there are. We know there are people.
And does this
we
contradict?
Call it mental illness,
yes.
You know?
But then does this contradict what we've already said about psychedelic experiences? Like, why would we diminish his endogenous psychedelic experience if that's what he's having? I mean, it is entirely possible that you're dealing with someone who maybe perhaps does have some sort of psychotic breaks, but also is experiencing psychedelic experiences due to some endogenous DMT dump or dump of whatever. And all these things are taking place at the same time in the dream state during heavy REM sleep. And he's coming back with these uniform stories of alien abduction.
Yeah. No, it's I mean, it's hard to parse it out. And I'm not saying I accept it all, but
it's easy to dismiss, but maybe you shouldn't, right?
Well, there maybe is something there. We should approach it in the spirit of, here's a phenomenon.
Right.
We don't understand it. We should miss it. There's something to be understood here. Not necessarily his understanding of it, but something to be looked at there. And I thought this book was interesting for its balance, you know. I would not have Whitley Strieber show without Jeffrey Cole on your show. That would be fun. It would be fun. And maybe it's a bridge too far. I'm not sure.
Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe we get to the bottom of this thing.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be got to the bottom of it. That's the question. Is there a man's delusion, or is there something?
But anyway, so here I am. I'm with Mike Edwards. We show up at the airport in St. Louis. First time we're going to meet. We meet each other. We hit it off right away. I don't have my driver's license. I had some form of ID. I don't know what form of ID I had. I had some form of ID. And he had his, and he could drive. He just got his at the time. So I don't know if I used my passport. I don't know. Anyway.
This whole thing, this fast-talking thing, this is part of the shuck and jive, though. This is a little bit of part of the
it's
thing.
Just me.
I understand, but it also is very effective That's what a shuck and jive artist does. They talk very fast and they never pause. So you never get a chance to interject.
Yeah.
And they're constantly going. So if they're reading or saying something, you have to keep up with them. And part of the keeping up with them is you get a little bewildered.
Yeah.
And in bewildered, you forget what you've said or they've said, and you're trying to sort of keep pace with them, and you can't. And next thing you know, they're like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you know that. How'd you figure that out?" Well, we'll get to that later. And then you keep going, and you keep. And
That is the entertainment aspect of it. Yeah, it's not.
You'll Cesar
performing.
Chavez when he was fighting. He would put a pace on you couldn't keep up with.
Right. Yeah. See, you always analyze it with, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
well,
good at things,
it's
so-
vulnerabilities.
Yeah, yeah.
Exploit vulnerabilities in the human mind. And one of them is that you talk and think faster than most people. So most people, when you're talking, they don't have it like right you just did right there. You
Because I had a
interject, but you
because-
get a change.
because I
I'm
had
not
a
going to
thought.
let you because I'm going to keep talking. And as I keep talking, I talk quicker. You get bewildered. That's one of the things that you do to people, whether you realize it or not. You do it because you've done it that way for a long time.
That's probably
and
right.
It's become a pattern.
Yeah.
It's become a pattern to make the other person feel insecure, so you don't.
Nah,
so you take
know what it's a
control
pattern
of it.
for? It's a pattern for me being able to think and not forget things as I'm saying them. Like because like as you
But it's so effective, though.
as you said that, there's another thing that popped in my. I've got all day long. I have songs in my head. It doesn't stop. Like I do this with my. All the
So you're
time.
playing
If I'm not thinking about anything else, I have songs in my head constantly. And I went to the dentist and I said, "Hey, you know, I'm staying with my teeth and I'm tapping my teeth. I'm wearing them on. You know, what's going on?" And he says, "Oh, musicians do that all the time." I go, "Well, I always have music 24 hours a day in my head." So, but now I've gone off somewhere and there was handwriting. So if you look at my handwriting, add my handwriting. Okay, like it's really hard to freaking read, right?
It's not that bad. Somebody just wrote me a letter
well,
the other
that's me.
day, and I read the letter. A friend of mine sent me something. He wrote me a letter, and I read his letter. I was like, "Well, what the fuck is that?" Because it's just scribble.
Well, that's
You
me,
want
right?
Someone to
this
read
is
it.
me neat. and
That's
slow.
not bad.
Slow. Normally, when I write, I can't read it myself. I'm saying what you just said. You're trying to keep up with your thoughts.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about bad hand. They say that you're trying to keep up with what you're thinking. A mile a minute. It's going in
Right.
1,000 different ways. And it's part of my problem solving is like when people give me ideas, like, okay, this is what I'd like to do as a magic effect. How do I do it? I'm able to rattle off like 10, 15 different
But
ways
it's so
of doing it.
effective, like as a mentalist, that way that pattern of talking is so bewildering to people that they just sort of like, huh, what, huh? And you've got them on the ropes always.
It is that thing of even stage show, and you'll have to come to a stage show sometime.
I would love
you know,
to.
I would love you to come
Well,
see
I was
the
the
whole
mini
thing.
version of it when you did the television show. I
Yeah.
was blown away.
I mean, the thing I do is I come out before I don't.
So if people they want to see,
I was just at Planet Hollywood in
Vegas?
Yeah, I've got a thing coming up at Rochester a Fringe Festival, Rochester, New York. Coming. I'm
Okay.
at a lot of different colleges. You can go to my website banachek.com and look up the dates. But the Rochester is going to be on the 13th, 7 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm on the 20th at 9 p.m. The 22nd.
They're not gonna
at
remember this.
3 p.m. So
You-
yeah, but
you're
you can
bewildering them.
find it on the
you can't.
you can find it on the website. So it is on the
Okay.
website. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're in Vegas all the time, right?
I'm in Vegas. I
a
don't
bit?
work Vegas that much.
Really?
I'm busy now, really, until beginning of November. I'm going to be like different places,
Just touring on the road?
touring different places. It's corporate, some of it's college. You know, it's a mixture of a mismatch of different.
So go
yeah.
back to this whole James Randi, Uri Geller.
So here I am with Mike Edwards at the airport, and we're hitting it off and everything. Peter Phillips shows up. He's the professor that I mentioned a minute who's going to be doing the investigating of us. And he has a wristband on. And I'm always asking questions. What's this? What's that? And I'm always noticing things. He said it was a wristband that he got from a witch doctor in Africa that helps protect him. So I'm starting to think this might be a little easier than I thought it was going to be. Because going in, I was like, I know, I'm skeptical. Are they going to use one-way mirrors? Are they going to be trying to trick, catch us? I had no clue. So we get into we had Peter Phillips's car because Mike was too young to drive around. Peter Phillips has a rental. He's in front of us, so we're following. And this is how it all starts, really. I'm sitting there and just kind of like me talking all the time. I'm looking around. I'm always doing things. I'm always noticing something. I look in the back seat and I notice there's a briefcase. Reach in the back and I kind of pull it under the dash. It's locked. And to me, like if somebody locks something, it means they don't want you inside there, of course, right? But anyone is in there. Or briefcase, you can just open the locks, open it up. Inside there's a whole bunch of silverware. So either there's a kleptomaniac or this is the silverware he's going to be using for the experiment. So I start bending it all up, lock the briefcase, put it in the back. Sit there for about 2 more minutes, open up the glove compartment. There's some extra things in the glove compartment. I start bending those up.
You bent as fuck.
Well, I'm a psychic, right? This shit happens. Like,
Yeah, what if those keys are getting his house?
yeah, but I needed him to be convinced I was genuine.
I get it.
All right, so I end up looking over at the car keys that are the keys that are hanging out on the car key, and I start to reach over to get them, and Mike just looks at me and says, "I think you've done enough." Stop, you know. So, but there's this really interesting phenomenon. We knew that in the laboratory, everything we did at that point was going to be on a micro level. It's going to be very small because it had to be, because we couldn't make it look like it's a trick. It had to look like minute.
Right.
And not just that, we didn't know if they were watching us, like I said, through wires and things like that. So there's an interesting phenomenon at the time that was spontaneous PK. And that is stuff that just happens.
PK?
PK is short for psychokinesis. Telekinesis, psychokinesis, the whole thing, they're all the same thing. So there's these things just supposedly happen around these sites that can bend metal. Stuff moves, stuff breaks, stuff that. Those things were the things that would convince him and keep him holding on. Even if we did a big bend out of the laboratory, but not on camera, that's the thing that would keep him going, I want to get that on film. Definitely want to get that on film. I'm going to document someday. That's going to happen in the laboratory. When we ended up getting to the laboratory, all the students at the university were extremely skeptical, very, very skeptical. Heard about the spontaneous PK. So they hid things underneath the video recorder. There was a separate room, and they hid all kinds of things around. I noticed there was hidden. I mean, why is there a hidden under that VCR? You know, why is there a fork hidden behind that cup? You know, it doesn't belong there. So I started bending up all those things. On lunch, convinced all the students that we were genuine as well.
Oh, Christ.
So this thing went on and on. It's a simple. So what happened was immediately Randy sent them a list of 13 kits of things that they shouldn't do, and it was stuff, right? It was stuff like, don't let the subjects work at the same time because they could distract. Don't let them work with more than one object at a time because they could confuse you with those objects, which ones you're bending. There's this whole list of different things. They showed the list to me, Mike, and had a good laugh about it and said, this would make you guys so uncomfortable. We should be comfortable. Where in reality, they should have followed that list because, one of the things Randy said was mark everything on a micro and a macro level. So subjects can see the macro mark, but won't realize there's a micro mark on there as well, which would have helped because their idea of doing a macro mark was in every fork, they took the fork or spoon, they measured it at both ends, like the height from the table, and they measured the middle of the fork from the table. Then they put a label on it, a little string with a number. And that was their idea of keeping track if something had bent or not, because they would measure it after we concentrated on it, and they would then remeasure it again afterwards, and they would say, "Oh, okay, this is bent a millimeter, 2 millimeters." So we would things like we would say, "This tag's in my way. Can I take?" Yeah, you can. Would put it down, concentrate on it. Didn't do anything. Put it on the table. Pick up another fork or a spoon. Say, "Do you mind if I remove this tag? Take it off. Put it down. Concentrate on it. Nothing happens." Switch the tags around on one that was on the first one to the second one first one, and then put the forks off to the side, and 2-3 hours later, pick up one of those forks, I'll be not doing anything with it, concentrating on it, say, why don't you measure it? And they would measure, and the measurements had now changed. Not realizing, because they never measured the other one again, because they remeasured everything consistently later on and put new tags on a single time, not realizing that we just simply switched forks. Or as we reached across the table, we would lean on one of the forks, and then hours again later, we would pretend like we actually bent that fork. So this went on. I mean, it went for 180 hours over 4 years. I mean, we messed with these people bad. We did things at the time that were probably illegal as well. Like leaving the window unlocked, laboratory, going off to the club across the state line, coming back like about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, breaking into the building, bending up every single piece of metal that was in the laboratory. They had
what kind of scientists were running this?
This was back in the 80s, so right? And they actually had this aquarium.
Back in the scientists were like 80s TV shows.
They really, no, it's true. Here's the sad thing, right? I went into this thinking people were going to be the enemy. It was me against them. You know,
Right.
I had to do this. These are just really, really nice people that are very naive when it comes to what psychic phenomena is.
Right. Well, if you're a scientist, most likely you're not studying a whole lot of liars and mentalists and magicians and psychic phenomena, and you really are probably trying to find out whether or not it's real, and maybe you believe a little bit too much. Don't know enough yet.
When it came to this type of phenomena. Absolutely. Geller was already doing that. Other psychics were already doing it in other countries, and they were being validated as a genuine thing.
Other countries?
Yeah, we knew, like
where?
Jean Girard over in France,
Tanzania?
up north over in England. You know, there was a lot of research going on in England at the time on this type of as well. It was a really big...
People hosing people.
It was little kids. Like, here's the weird thing, right? So over in England, there were, I can't think of what the guy's name is now. There was a scientist over there, a psychologist who was working with little kids, and his thinking is that kids don't lie. Little kids don't lie. All they do is lie. They get to that point where they learn how to lie,
Who the
anything
fuck
and everything.
thinks kids don't lie? That's someone without kids.
And kids only got caught. The only reason they got caught was by accident because the video cameras were left on, and as soon as the parapsychologists left the room, the kids were taking some spoons and actually bending them underneath their feet and then putting them back up on the table. So and they would come in.
They really, scientists went in with the premise that children don't lie. That is one of the dumbest fucking things I've ever heard in my life.
I disagree with you, but this is how badly people wanted to believe in this phenomenon.
Why do people want to believe in hidden powers?
I think it's why people want to believe in most things, right? I mean, we want to believe there's something more just us. Like that, for most people, we're not. And I don't know if it's because we get so bored with our lives, we pressed with our lives, we get, you know, we're in this everyday thing of going to work, home, and is this all there is? Is this it, you know? Is there something else that's a superpower that I could actually have? Is there something I discover that's bigger than me, better than me? You know, is the universe much bigger than just this planet right here?
Right.
So, and if you ask me, I would think that if UFOs were coming here, if they were coming, let's say, I don't believe they were, but if they were coming here.
You don't believe they were?
No, I don't.
Why is that?
I think if they were, I just don't. I don't. I think we would really have real 100% evidence of it by now. But here's the thing, right? Wouldn't it make much sense? Like for us, okay, let's say we start looking at other planets. Are we going to send other humans out there? Or are we going to go ahead and send robots or something like that can
Like
last
we do tomorrow.
better and better and better at? So if there's an advanced civilization, surely they would also have this advancement. We don't have to send themselves out. They can send something to represent them, right?
What the real hardcore believers believe those grays are.
Yeah.
The gray aliens with the big black eyes. They think they're some sort of a android or something.
And it could be, but I don't believe we've had them.
I believed a lot more before I started doing that television show.
Right.
That television show cured me of Bigfoot, cured me of psychics, cured me of aliens, cured me of like almost everything.
Well, this is with me, right? When I was a young kid, I did that stuff. You know, when I was a kid, I spoke in tongues. You know, I thought I did.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I had the whole experience. I mean, it was, you know, all the chemicals through my body, and me just going, you know, doing the whole damn thing, you know, and going to that. And I realized later what was going on, but at the time, I was looking for answers. I was looking for answers.
Well, you had a very disturbed life, and you were probably looking for some sort of